We will commence in the next 45 seconds.
Honorable Regan.
Thank you, Honorable Regan. Ellen.
Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon to the Minister, HOD, chairpersons for the various entities. Thank you so much for your attendance here today. It is a Friday. It has been an intense last 2 weeks in terms of the parliamentary program, but please feel welcomed on this Friday, the 4th of December 2020. I again wish to welcome each and every person online, the parliamentary monitoring group, any persons of the media, as well as guests and members of the public. To set the context for the meeting of today, members, we are here to discuss and to deliberate on the 2019-2020 annual reports for the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport, Heritage Western Cape, the Western Cape Cultural Commission, as well as the Western Cape Language Committee. I will now allow members to introduce themselves for the record, but also if there's any member present that is representing a permanent member, to please disclose that in your address as you introduce yourself. Over to you, members. Members, if you are able to introduce yourself for the record. Mr. Wasi Matthews, do we have?
Good afternoon, Chair. It's member Mesuli Kama. I'm standing in today for member Barnes. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, member Kama. Just yesterday I was chatting to member Barnes as well, and again we wish a speedy recovery. Any other members online?
Good afternoon, Chairperson. This is William Bosman.
Good afternoon, Chair. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, member Botha.
Good afternoon, Lorraine Botha.
Thank you, member Bosman and member Botha.
Good afternoon, Chair. Rachel van Vogel.
Thank you, member.
Good afternoon, Chair. Wandam Kize, representing the Language Committee.
Thank you so much. We will get to your introductions in the next couple of minutes. I have noted member Brinkhuis is also online today. Members, in terms of our rules of engagement for today, I trust that I don't need to rehash it again, but in terms of the 17th of April, the directives which were APC'd will be followed for today. For our order today in our meeting, I will allow the Minister and the HOD to make any opening remarks in terms of our agenda items for today, but I will discuss the entities first and foremost. I think it is quite fitting based on the entities, and when I noted within the annual reports, in terms of Heritage Western Cape, there was communication in terms of that Heritage Western Cape introduced a time slot to agenda of the committee meetings so that applicants do not have to spend the whole day waiting for their cases to be presented to a committee. I will take a leaf out of the Heritage Western Cape and allow the entities to first and foremost engage us. And then we will head straight into the department, depending on the time limits. If there will be a break, I will assess it during the course of our meeting. I trust that you all find that in order, but first and foremost, I'll allow the Minister to make any opening remarks together with the HOD. I believe this is the very last time that we will be engaging the HOD. We have publicly expressed our sincere gratitude to him in terms of his role that he's played over the last 10 years, and we wish him well on his future endeavors. You will surely be missed. But I now give over to the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good afternoon to all the members and to the department. With your permission, I would like to make closing remarks and not opening remarks today. Thank you.
That's all in order. To the HOD, is there any opening remarks from your side, sir?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. I know you have changed the order of the proceedings around, but I just want to make general remarks, if that is okay with you, Chair. May I?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So maybe just to say, Chair, today we've got our full team here. Our CFO is writing an exam today, so we have an acting CFO, Mr. Natamo, who is here. And then we also would know, Chair, that we have on our team Dr. Mokalisi Lamuka. He left the employ of the department on the 30th of November. So today we have acting director, Mr. Michael Janssen van Rensburg. He's the acting director. And we also have acting CEO for Heritage Western Cape, Ms. Colette Shearmeyer, also accompanying us. And then accompanying us also today is the chair of Heritage Western Cape, Mr. Mgijima, the deputy chair of the Western Cape Language Committee, Mr. Mkhizi, and the chairperson of the Cultural Commission, Ms. Fani. So, Chair, this is our delegation. You, of course, the other members, you do know the other members, but maybe just to say from the department's point of view, I think the first thing, maybe just to start off by just talking about the fact that we have a wide demographic and geographic reach across all communities. We in every town, basically some level of our business is in every town. To say also, as we have intimated before, Chairperson, that we are responsible for the 3 public entities and they are fully represented in this meeting today. And that we have under our control about 550 permanent employees and probably about another 1,000 various kinds of different kinds of employees across the length and breadth of this province. Also to perhaps just indicate that when we present this report to you today, what the report will demonstrate is our alignment with national priorities, provincial priorities, and also across departments. You will see that some of the, if you follow the narrative, we have a strong sense of cooperation with many of our sister departments, especially those inside the social cluster. I think just on the performance side, as we present this today, to say to you that we have 105 performance indicators. We fully met 101 of these. The 4 that we did not meet, they basically, we will discuss it when we get there, but the 4 that we did not meet, they basically were matters essentially outside of our control for 3 of them. And the 4th one was about the technical interpretation by the Auditor General, which we then eventually decided to accept their interpretation that they had given us. So therefore, we did not meet that target. I think also just to perhaps note that as far as expenditure of the department is concerned, we spent 98.8% of our adjusted budget over the period. And then finally, perhaps to just note that this is this report that we are presenting. I know we're on the part now, we're talking about the content, but just to perhaps note that this will be our 8th clean audit in a row. So, Chair, those are just our opening remarks. I think we present ourselves to the committee, and as we go through it, we'll be able to answer the questions. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, HOD. I will personally be missing hearing your voice. I'm glad that you touched on the auditing process. In my informal discussions with the Office of the AG, I received some amazing news regarding the outcome of not only the department, but also of the entities. But what I will do now, and like I've indicated earlier on, I'll take a leaf out of Heritage Western Cape, and I will deal with all of the entities first and foremost, because I am cognizant of the fact that if we are here until 7 o'clock tonight and an entity is only going to be introduced or be engaged at 6 o'clock, it might be a bit unfair on them. And I trust that you find that in order, Minister, as well as HOD and members, to see how we can deal with the entities first and foremost. I also would want to say that during the lockdown and during COVID, we have embarked on working digitally, and we've seen how effective it can be to engage in this way, even though many of us would miss the face-to-face interaction. But I do want to commend our plenary services who have forwarded all the annexures via zip files, via email in terms of the entities, as well as the documents in terms of our annual report for the department. We've further received a link via committee support where we were able to download all of the relevant documents pertaining to the entities as well as the department in terms of the annual report. So well done to plenary services for forwarding all the necessary documents, as well as the second assistance from our committee support. And I trust that members have had the opportunity to peruse and to interrogate and make notes on the annual reports. I will now note Heritage Western Cape, and I will allow the chairperson, Mr. Bongani Imgijima, to make any opening remarks. Are you present, sir?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon, Minister and senior management of the department. Thank you very much, Chair, for giving us this opportunity to present our report. And also, we would like to thank you for shortlisting us last year for appointment. It's almost now a year since you appointed us. And basically 5 months in terms of the report that we are presenting before you. Chair, we were very unfortunate that right before the end of the financial year, we were hit by COVID-19. But I'm very happy to say that as Heritage Western Cape, we managed to turn that around into an opportunity. So most of our meetings are also online. And thank you, Chair, for taking the leaf from our book in terms of timed agenda. We really appreciate that, and I'll communicate it to council members. Chairperson, I don't have much to say, just to say that we are very thankful that we are able to present this report, and we are looking forward to your engagement. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Do we have Dr. Dlamuka online? I believe
I don't think we have him online. So we have an acting CEO, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, HOD. Members, what I will do now in terms of the documents that we have received, as I indicated via email, I will be tabling the annual report for Heritage Western Cape, and I will be tabling the first half of the entire report. As you have noted, the report would be roughly 99 pages. So between pages 1 and 50, I will now take a round of questions, input, or any clarity seeking questions that members would have in terms of Heritage Western Cape's annual report 2019-2020. I see one hand so far. I will note you, Member Kama, and Member Botha in that order.
Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to you once again, and members and all the departmental staff. Chair, I just have one question, and perhaps let me congratulate the entity on meeting, I think, almost all of their targets. But Chair, one thing that I want to just get perhaps a clarity on the entity is on the, I see on page 40, if you look at the planned targets for, at the bottom, the number of provincial heritage sites unveiled. Now, I want to, if I can just get a clarity, Chair, in terms of what informs these targets. Because I see there the department, I mean the entity has overperformed because an additional provincial heritage site was unveiled to coincide with the 50th anniversary commemorating the death of Imam Harun. Now, I want to get an understanding as to what informs these targets, especially when it has to do with the unveiling of heritage sites, because for example, the commemoration of the 50th anniversary would have been something that would have known a long time ago, and it would have been something that would have been able to plan for and put it as part of the planned target. I'm asking this question, Chair, because I want to check the will within the heritage Western Cape to really change the heritage landscape of the province, and in also some way, because when you do this, I think unveiling these sites and protecting some of these sites, you are also educating the generation that is growing up now around the history of this province and the country. So I just want to get that understanding, Chair, there. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Kama. I now note Member Botha.
Thank you very much, Chair. If you can hear me, please indicate so. Chairperson?
I can hear you clearly, Member Botha.
Can you? Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Have to apologize up front. I'm in a bit of a noisy place because I'm outdoors and I'm forcedly outdoors. Provincial strategic plan. If the department can speak to the safe and cohesive communities, growth and jobs, and empowering people, and also the innovation. How have you achieved this? And then on page 35 and 36, regarding the criminal charges, if the department can speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Member Botha. HOD, as well as Chairperson, I trust that you captured those questions.
Chairperson, I just want clarity from Mrs. Botha on page 35 and 36. We're dealing with heritage at the moment. So,
Member Botha?
Yes, it is heritage 35 and 36.
State versus Raymond.
Excuse me? Yes, Raymond, the criminal charge is 2.5.2, and then there are matters 2.5.3 as well, sir.
Okay. Chairperson, how would you like us to answer this? Would you?
I think if you proceed, I will take a second round, just so that we can get the ball rolling on this Friday afternoon. So between yourself and the Chairperson, you can do it whatever way you would want to do it, sir.
Okay. Maybe just to try and answer the first question, and then Colette and others can please come in, and the Chairperson if required. Please, Chair. Maybe just to say that as far as the processes for determining which sites are worthy of, let's just say, provincial significance and therefore have heritage status, I think those are always long processes started way before the time where people make submissions to be able to say, well, this is something that's worthy of commemorating in some way. I mean, we use the example of the 50-year commemoration. The thing about the 50-year commemoration is that the department was approached in the year before by people who wanted to commemorate, and was actually approached not from a commemoration point of view of the site, but looking rather at the commemoration as a celebration. And then various elements of the department became involved, of which heritage was one of those. And heritage looked at the situation and then decided that commemoration could come in that way. Colette is free to add on some of the other sites that have been chosen and have been given the status. She can please come in on that. And then as far as the issues around when we look at questions of social cohesion and economy and jobs and so on for heritage, I think heritage is sitting in that nexus chair where they have to make sure that they adequately conserve and preserve for future generations all the heritage that we have, but at the same time, they have to do that in a way that is also realistic. So I think they have robust processes to be able to make sure that we are doing that. So when they make a decision, they'll be looking at, okay, what is the impact on economy? What is the impact on conservation? What is the impact on the cultural values of people and so on? And then make a decision in relation to that, specifically heritage. They will look at all those factors to be able to come to a decision. And they have, as I'm sure the committee is aware, a robust, let's just say, subcommittees. You know, everything from paleontological to Colette can give the names of the various subcommittees, depending where the Balcom and so on, depending where the thing locates. And then it is seriously discussed before it actually gets to a decision, the decision as to which way they're going to go in relation to it. So I think that's just my input. Maybe Colette can talk about the case a little bit. Colette?
Yes, thank you, HOD. I just want to greet the committee, to the chairperson, members of the standing committee, to Minister, HOD, and to other colleagues I haven't had the opportunity to greet. But yes, thank you, HOD, for that. That is correct. Just to touch on the criminal charges and the two matters that are in court. In the matter of the state versus Len Raymond, that matter has not been finalized yet due to several postponements. In fact, HWC did have an official who appeared on the matter in court in June, and that was further postponed due to the defendant not appearing in court at the time. There's been further postponement in September this year, and the matter has now been postponed in the Paarl Magistrates Court that will be heard on the 4th of February 2021. On the matter of Midnight Storm, the court case was heard in the North Gauteng High Court in August 2019, and the court dismissed the plaintiff's appeal. The matter is being appealed currently to the Supreme Court of Appeal. On the matter of exclusive trading 570, the court, this particular case is regarding the property on the Philippi horticultural area in which they sought to overturn the tribunal's upholding of HWC's decision not to permit the development. So the Impact Assessment Committee, which is one of the committees of HWC, did not approve. It went to appeal, and that then went further to the Ministerial Independent Appeal. And the applicants in this case have pended litigation, which basically means they've put the case on hold. So it's not currently withdrawn, but it is on hold because they seem to be waiting for the outcome of an appeal at the city. So those are the current statuses of the cases with HWC. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Members, Member Botha, your hand is still raised. Thank you so much.
Apologies.
Members,
Apologies.
No problem at all. Members, is there any other questions, views, or any comments that you would want to make on the first pages that I've identified. I see member Kama. Over to you, sir.
No, thanks, Chair. And apologies if I want to just follow up. I think on the response that was given by the HOD. Yes, I understand that the process might be long. As a result, others might be challenged through courts, and we're not in control over the time that the court really takes to resolve these matters. But I want to check, Chair, if is there anything that prohibits the entity in law to, on its own, have its own targets, that would want to, we have identified maybe this site and would want to protect, or is it a matter of there has to be an application from those particular people that would want that site to be protected? Because I'm asking this, Chair, because I'm saying for others, we can be proactive and would know that we want to protect maybe this particular place, and then we know it's going to take us so many years and all that. But I'm trying to check, because the HOD says the one of the site of Imam Haron, it was an application or a request for celebrations and some sort, but through the involvement of Heritage Western Cape, then later it came that the site also, they came to look at the site. Now I'm looking at that, Chair, and saying, because the role also of the heritage site is to make sure that we preserve a heritage of significance in the Western Cape. So I'm trying to measure the proactiveness to deliver that without applications being made, so that we know, because I can imagine, Chair, if there was no application to celebrate, would that have meant that would be far from protecting that particular site, or which is of significance in the province? Thanks, Chair.
Chairperson, I'm going to ask Colette to answer that, because she's very aware of the processes.
Thank you so much, HOD. Before I give it a stab, is there any other members? If I can have, I would want to ask some questions, but also make some remarks. I am aware and grateful actually for the many volunteers that has been noted within the annual report that have taken their time and volunteered their services to serve on the various committees. Obviously, it speaks to Heritage Western Cape fostering those valuable relationships with heritage professionals, and I think everyone on the committee will trust that those relationships continue. But what I want to get into, HOD and Chairperson, regarding the view that more staff is needed to execute the mandate of Heritage Western Cape optimally, does that ironically mean that the mandate at this moment is not being optimally executed, and whether there has been any discussions that have been initiated from Heritage Western Cape or from the HOD and the department side, and if so, what is the latest in that regard? Also, another concern that has been noted regarding the salaries that are being paid to professional staff members. I've noted that the high staff turnover is attributed to the fact that the salaries of professional staff members are not competitive enough within the market. Is there any thoughts around that? What are we potentially thinking about to remedy that? And again, has any discussions taken place in that regard? Another comment and type of question that I would want to latch onto is whether any engagement has taken place, if it's between the department or the the entity and the Minister of Local Government in terms of Heritage Western Cape's concern about the slow progress that has been made with regard to municipalities applying for competence to undertake their functions in terms of the National Heritage Resources Act. If we could hear some more about that, and I would really appreciate it. I think we're going to do well for time today. I would really appreciate the fact that if the chairperson or the CEO is able to reflect on some of the gains that has been made during the last year within 2019, 2020. But also then one of the comments that I would want to commend the Heritage Western Cape is the introduction regarding, as I mentioned earlier, of a time slot so that cases are presented within a specific time. I think that just makes the work so much easier for those that are applying, also saving time in understanding that we are not only time, everything wants our time, but now we obviously are more determined in that regard. I would like to hear some more of that. And also, if the committee is able to get information, I know the steps has been taken to do roadshows, and that couldn't happen due to COVID. But if we can get possible details regarding any roadshows that Heritage Western Cape will undertake, once that has obviously been confirmed, which can be circulated to committee members to ascertain if they are available. But that's all from me at this stage. Members, before we hand again over to the department, I am going to table the entire report. So I will first allow the department to answer as well as the entity, but I will table the entire report, and directly after the input, we will then receive input and questions from the members. Over to you, Chairperson and HOD.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask Colette if she can just respond to the first question, just in relation to the process that was asked by Member Kama. And then I will try and answer some of the questions, and Colette will assist, and the Chair and Guy if we miss out on some of the other questions that you have asked, Chair. Can I ask Colette to come in, please?
Yes, HOD. Thank you for the question, Member Kama, and for wanting us to elaborate on this. And correctly so, the legislative mandate of HWC is not only reactive, so it is also proactive. So the Act talks about the identification, protection, and management of heritage resources, and that is a two-prong approach. It's the reactive, where communities have the ability to approach HWC and to nominate sites of significance. I think that's an important process for communities so that they can have a voice in identifying, and they are the best people on the ground to identify those heritage resources which are important. So I think it's not a process to be discarded, because that is essentially what we are looking towards when we are thinking of transforming the heritage landscape. We want to get that input. But then there's also a portion of the Act that puts a mandate on HWC to identify. So the entity has in the last few years gone through a process of looking at researching sites that it itself wants to put forward for nomination and take through that. An example of that is the Rockland Civic Centre in Mitchell's Plain, which was the site of the national launch of the UDF in 1983. That is a site that through research by the entity has gone through the process of nomination. It has gone through the operational leg of putting the nomination dossier together. It has gone through council, and it is, it has been adopted and gazetted as a provincial heritage site. In fact, one of the successes of this process is that it was nominated to the National Heritage Resources Agency for National Heritage Declaration, and that has subsequently been gazetted as a national heritage site. So the process on the part of the entity, yes, we do have to identify and protect, but we also are touching a little bit on the outreach intentions that HWC have, is to encourage and empower and give communities the mechanisms or explain the mechanisms of how the Act works and where they can come in and nominate sites. So it's a two-prong approach that we're trying to bring in as opposed to just having the entity. So some of that planning then and research does take a bit, and there are times when, in terms of our planning, yes, we put our targets in, but then there are occasions where things are identified and it's recognized that in order to celebrate this and to highlight this and bring this into sharp focus immediately, we'll bring that on board, being mindful of the fact that that is HWC's mandate, is to also celebrate and promote heritage resources in the Western Cape. I trust that sufficiently covers that for the member, and I'll hand over back to HOD.
Thank you very much, Colette. Chair, then maybe just to indicate on your question about whether more staff is required. I think this is coming from a few angles. I think one of the angles are that we must give credit to the council and to the CEO and the staff that essentially they removed a lot of bottlenecks from the system by introducing what is called a HOMS committee, which Colette can speak about. And what they then did in that HOMS committee is that they dealt with matters that they felt essentially it's almost like open and shut. So essentially you come in, this is a heritage matter, it doesn't have to clog up the system, perhaps it's not complex, and it doesn't need to be taken to the council. And then the more complex matters have been taken to the council. Now why I mention that is because if we look over time, in the past there are lots of complaints about the fact that many matters take very long before they are decided. I want to put it to the committee this afternoon. It's probably unfair because of the 3,000 matters that go there, like 2,900 of them actually go through without the issue, and then the others become problematic. And unfortunately, the ones that are problematic, those are the ones which catch the most wind, and those are the ones which actually, I think, get into media and into other spaces. But in general, 95% of the matters actually go through quite smoothly inside that committee. So the question then is, on the difficult matters, you need more staff at a higher level to be able to engage on the difficult matters. So the Treasury has basically given us prioritization for the filling of posts inside the heritage area. They've in fact given additional funding for that, and we're busy with the process there. I think the second issue, Chair, is that you raise is in relation to the fact that the levels of the post are lower than what, let's just say, competing public entities outside of our sphere can offer. I'm talking now specifically about some national entities, but specifically some of the municipalities, and the fact that they can attract the level of staff. The unfortunate thing is that we're under the DPSA rules, and there'll be things like called job evaluation. So we stuck with the job evaluation, and then these posts are benchmarked, and they're perhaps compared to the whole cultural sector, and they're not being given extra prominence. So in the end, perhaps the levels come out a little bit lower. We have pushed, we've created another level of person. Colette can just give me the detail, but it's the level 9 posts that we have created through this process. She can just come in afterwards to just give that the name of that post. But to get around the benchmarking. But I do want to say that in my 12 years at this department, we do have a little bit of an issue where we take younger people in the heritage. Many of them fresh from their studies. They develop a kind of experience inside this area, and then they get lured by salaries in other spaces that we cannot compete with. So I think that's always going to be an issue. As far as the engagement with local government is concerned, Chair, we are obviously always talking to local government. There's a robust conversation with local government that Heritage, I know, does have, because I know local government also has some of the municipalities have something called inventories, which Colette can also talk about, which they really want us to promote and to push. So there is that engagement with local government. Colette, maybe you can just add where I've left out a few things. Back to you.
Yeah. Thank you, HOD. Just on the posts, we have advertised the positions for 4 senior heritage officers. Tying into what HOD has been saying, I think what we are wanting to allow for a bit of room in the staffing system is to retain staff who have been trained, who come in with perhaps, yes, the education, but not the skills and the experience. And we have seen throughout the years that the entity, goes through quite a heavy turnaround of professional staff, and to get an architect in at a level 7 salary is quite a challenge. I mean, the same goes for archaeologists, paleontologists, historians, and so on and so on. And so we've created those senior heritage officer posts and an OSD town planner post because it's particularly important for HWC in its planning and approvals processes, because it works quite closely with the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, and also with local municipalities in terms of their spatial development frameworks and their planning, that in our processes we have the necessary in-house and retain the necessary in-house skills to deal with these applications and to deal with complex, very complex development applications. So I think it's a heartening and a very positive step forward for HWC, considering, as HOD has correctly said, that a large part of the final decisions and comments that are made and not moved on to other committees are made by the heritage officers meetings and not by the other committees, such as the Archaeology, Paleontology and Meteorites Committee. We've got the Built Environment and Landscape Committee, Impact Assessment Committee, there's the Inventories Gradings Committee, and our Appeals Committee. And so these committees are also incredibly important in terms of the functioning and decision making of HWC, and it certainly in no way means that in terms of capacitating HWC that these committees must be done away with, because it lends to the strength of HWC that it has that additional capacity and expertise and knowledge, because in heritage the little arteries and veins go all over the place, so we do need sometimes particular historical and other kinds of expertise. So it only to the betterment and the growth that we also keep and sustain the growth that we have in terms of our vision to continue to serve communities across the Western Cape. HOD, if I may, and through you, Chairperson, if I can maybe just comment on the inventories that you've touched on and the heritage areas. I think it's a particularly important point, because this is one of the areas in terms of the Act and the roles and functions of local municipalities that we have been trying to also through the idea of doing further outreaches as well, is to start talking to them about what the Act says and what are the practicalities of rolling this out and the benefits to making decision making and planning and development. Because once, in terms of the legislation, heritage areas are established, you can then, once you have an identified formally protected area, for instance, let's say Stellenbosch, just as an example, that you can then, outside of those areas, lift off the protection in terms of the need for permitting for Section 34s, which is the bulk of the applications that we get at HWC, but then have a heritage register where there are pockets of buildings outside of those areas that need to be formally protected. And that is particularly important, particularly in our current economy and our environment, where we want to ensure stimulus and growth when it comes to development. And just to say, HWC as an entity and as a provincial authority is not anti-development, but we are very concerned about ensuring that appropriate development takes place. And once we have at the municipal level these mechanisms in place, it creates the kind of efficiency and surety in process that developers and investors and communities need. And even the person who just as a once-off want to buy a property and invest in it and build on it, that they know what they can do and what they can't do. So these heritage areas and inventories are fundamentally important to ensuring that at that local level, that heritage resources management happens without restricting development. I trust that covers the answer sufficiently, Chair.
Thank you so much, CEO. Members, I am seeing one hand. I see Member Brinkhuis. I have tabled the entire annual report for Heritage Western Cape. Is there any other member? Any question? Any point of clarity? I will also continue to encourage members to use any parliamentary privileges that they have, for example, like parliamentary questions, if there's any additional information or questions that you want to pose after today's sitting. But Member Brinkhuis, I note you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you for the responses from the department. Chair, many of our local museums here in Cape Town, if I could mention a name or two, the Muslim Heritage Museum of South Africa that is locally based here in Cape Town, they are struggling a lot with funding and actually with a permanent base for them to operate from. What processes does the department have in place to assist these upcoming small and upcoming museum structures? Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson. Sorry, Chairperson, can you hear us?
Thank you so much, Member Brinkhuis. HOD,
No,
I'm going
I
to
was
give
just
over
going
to
to say,
you.
Chairperson, that question is actually for the department, not for Heritage Western Cape.
I have noted that.
We can answer it though if you wish us to. Michael van Rensburg is on the, Janssen van Rensburg is on the line. He's the head of museums, if he can answer it.
Members, with your indulgence, I will allow for that question to be answered. But like I stated earlier on, via plenary services, we have received all the annual reports. We've also received a link via committee support to download all the documents if we have not opened up our email, for example. So all that documents I consider to have been perused and read, and I trust that you find that in order. But thank you so much, HOD, for pointing that out as well. I now give over to you.
Michael. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, HOD. Thank you, Chair. To all the members, Minister, greetings from my side. And Member Brinkhuis, thank you very much for the question. Just as a matter of background, there is roughly 120 to 140 museums in the Western Cape, and the department affiliates museums other than national museums. We've got two mechanisms. We've got the Museum Ordinance number 8 of 1975, which allows the affiliation of provincial, province-aided and local museums. And then in 2013, we also published the Western Cape Museum Policy, which allows for the registration of museums. Now, the department's vision is to transform the heritage landscape, and we are always looking at options and possibilities to assist non-affiliated museums. So we are very open to engage with the Muslim Heritage Museum in Cape Town. We have recently affiliated a new museum in Elands Bay, and we can definitely be of assistance, not just in affiliation of museums, but also in terms of expertise with the scientific and technical department when looking at research and exhibitions and how to manage the objects in their collection. So we can definitely be in contact with the museum to see how we can be of assistance in that regard. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, HOD.
Thank you so much to the department as well as the chairperson and CEO for the input here today. Members, I trust that we can consider that the annual report from the committee side in terms of today is concluded. I do want to thank the entity as well as the chairperson and the CEO for their attendance here today and for giving us the answers to the questions, for the insight that we have gained. I know I was unable to be at the Rocklands unveiling, which is literally in my hometown. And I'm not sure if I must even say this, but apparently I was not born yet. It was in my mother's trimester, the last trimester, when she was actually at the meeting with the UDF. But yes, thank you so much. Is there any closing remarks from your side, the CEO or the chairperson? Before we conclude, we will after this go directly to the language.
None from my side, Chair. Just to thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. None from my side, but again, just to thank the committee for its interest and continued support. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You are now officially excused. However, if you do wish to stay longer, you are welcome to do so. But thank you so much, Heritage Western Cape, for your participation during the annual report 2019-2020 that has been tabled here today. Thank you so much. Members, we will now go directly over. It is now 2:50. We will now go over directly to the Language Commission. Do I note the chairperson for any introductory remarks? Mr. Mkhize, are you online?
Yes, I'm online, Chairperson. Good afternoon. Good afternoon also to the minister and also the HODs and all the leading parties and the rest of the members. Chairperson, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to present our annual report. It has been a very tough year, as much as it has been for every other department in the country. So we would like to note the fact that the committee has done a lot in the past year of the financial year of 2019-2020, and we have accomplished a lot, and we met our targets. And as per annual report, we would like to take any questions that the rest of the members may have for the language department. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much for your opening remarks. The last time we saw each other was at the Artscape when it was pre-COVID. But thank you so much for you being here. Members, I will now table the first half of the entire annual report for the Language Commission. I will go to pages 1 to 41. It's 63 pages, sorry, 1 to number 30. Any questions, input from any member? Member Brunkhuis, is your hand still up from previously?
Oh, no, sorry, Chair. I'm good.
Thank you so much, Member Brunkhuis. You joined a different party today. Any other member in terms of the annual report that has been tabled? I will table the entire report, pages 1 to 63. In terms of the Language Commission, Chairperson, if you could perhaps speak to some of the work that you have done in terms of promoting sign language. If we could hear some more of that in terms of other mother tongue languages as well here in the province. That would be one of my questions or just remarks to get further information on that one. But if there's no other questions, Chairperson or HOD, I will now hand over to you.
Thank you very much. Can I ask either Jane or Guy to perhaps just answer the question about sign language? Guy, are you on? Yes, please go ahead, Jane. It's fine.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairperson, and good afternoon, members and Minister and my colleagues. In terms of sign language, just to say, Chairperson, the first entry point is that on the committee we have a deaf person, and the committee ensure that at all the committee meetings are the person is accommodated and there's a sign language interpreter for her. And overall, in terms of sign language, is that the committee is putting sign language quite high on the agenda. They're working close with the department and the language section of the department. They have assisted and collaborated with the department with the programs that we run on sign language. For argument's sake, that with the department, they've given guidance and advice around the sign language playing cards that the department has produced and distributed. The committee is also participating in the adjudication of language practitioners. There were sign language interpreter when we've on the adjudication panel. Now that we've looked at the new interpreters list for the department, and then just overall the committee worked closely with the sign language institution, with DEPSA, the national with DEPSA, and then the National Language Institution DEBAT in Worcester. So they have a very close relationship with them, and they also ensure that at all levels that the principles of South African Sign Language is adhered to. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much for the response. I now note Member Bosman.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, I just have a few questions with regards to the report. My first question would be if we can get a broad overview of how the Western Cape government is doing in its equal use of Afrikaans, English, and isiXhosa. The second question is, how is the committee faring with the implementation of the Khoisan Language Act, with the act being sort of quite recently promulgated? It's the Traditional and Khoisan Leadership Act. I think it was 2019. And how is the department doing in terms of addressing the languages of the Khoi and the San, which are currently, if my memory serves me right, not declared official languages? And then also, Chair, I note in the report that it states that the committee doesn't employ any staff, and it relies on support from the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports. I just wanted to find out whether that is a hindrance in its execution of its duties. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Member Bosman. I'll give over to the department as well as the chairperson or the CEO.
Okay, I'm going to ask between Jane and Guy, they can answer the question about the Khoisan Leadership Act, and also just in terms of the Khoisan languages, if they could potentially just do that. But maybe I just want to address a process issue, not a process issue, a structural issue. Just remember, Member Bosman, what we have in our department is that we have 3 public entities, but unlike any other department, these 3 public entities don't sit with away from us with their own staff. It's a shared business model where we actually have staff supporting their operations. So it's the same for Heritage Western Cape, the same for the Language Committee, and the same for the Cultural Commission. And that was something we did early in the 2000s, early 2000s, in relation to cost saving. So it's a shared business model where essentially the staff are operating in a way that supports the committee. It's worked very well for the past period, certainly in the 12 years I've been here, and obviously it has its challenges because you know the staff have to service the department and they have to service the committee. But in my view, it probably is a model that potentially could work in the situation. In some instances, like in Heritage Western Cape's instances, it can probably need to look at that again because of the volume of what is required. But it is a different model to, for example, like Westgro, where Westgro is sitting separately from the Economic Development Department with their own CEO, own CFO, and so on. So, Chair, that's just on the structure, but maybe Jane can come in and guide. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, HOD, and good afternoon, Chair and members. Good afternoon, MSC. I'm going to talk to the one dealing with the Traditional and Khoisan Leadership Act, as well as some of the activities that we've done to try and support the diminishing languages of the Khoi and the San. With the Act, it has been signed by the President, but a date has not been set for it to be effective. So the Act is not yet effective, and we are watching that closely. One of the biggest roles of the Act, at least in the first 5 years, will be the work of the Commission on Khoisan Matters that will determine if we have any leaders within the Khoisan community that would be officially recognized by government and form a provincial house of Khoisan leaders. So that will be very crucial. But in the meantime, we're doing a lot of programs to support these languages. Last year, we had 3 programs in particular. We had Heritage Month celebrations, which, because last year was the UNESCO Year for Indigenous Languages, we used the opportunity to showcase all the Khoisan language, specifically focusing on Khoi Khoi Khoab. We then followed that with a support to the UCT. Members may be aware that UCT developed a course and took in some students for Khoi Khoi Khoab last year. We supported that initiative as well, and even assisted with the graduation ceremony, and we helped popularize it. And then towards the end of the financial year, we then had International Mother Tongue, Mother Language Day, which happens around February. And we had a partnership with Iziko Museums of South Africa, PANCEL, the Swahili Language Board, and trying to see how we can create agency around the protection and the promotion and also the role of indigenous languages in shaping cultural identity and heritage. And it was a very successful program. Thank you, Chair. And the other one that talks to how the departments are doing in getting the equal status of the 3 official languages. Despite some challenges, the institutions have made quite a lot of progress, and that you can determine in the number of requests that we receive for translations. So departments are definitely doing it. The challenge is in the resources available for translation purposes, both within the departments, various departments, and also within the DCAS to fulfill that role. I will answer this question here, although it's a DCAS question. So the language department, just before lockdown, had begun a process of trying to understand where the various departments are battling and see the areas in which DCAS can come in and recommend solutions. And we had already begun a process where we were going to begin circulating surveys to them. That process we paused because of COVID-19, and we're going to pick up on it. We'll circulate the surveys to the provincial departments and check the extent to which they're able to comply with the Act and the challenges that they're experiencing. That will be followed up by on-site visits just to verify that the information that they've provided in the survey is consistent. And then we put that together into a report that would include recommendations supported by the department, and hopefully at some stage it then reaches provincial top management. So we have a process that is currently underway that will give us real data on the extent to which the departments are faring, and the extent to which we can, as DCAS, also offer support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Member Brankhuis, is your name, your hand is still up, sir?
Yes, yes, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Do you have any further question, Member Brankhuis? And then I will note Member Bosman again.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I would like to know that many of our constituency officers all around the Western Cape, many a times on their doorsteps, people, disabled people are coming into the doors there. And going forward, what can the department do to assist our constituency officers at the constituency offices? Thank you.
Thank you, Member Brankhuis. Earlier on with the initial question, I gave leeway. That question will have to stand over as we are currently dealing with the Language Commission. Any questions relating to the Language Commission based on the annual report, which was emailed via our plenary services, as well as a link which was forwarded by our committee support. I trust that you find that in order. We will deal with your question at a later stage during today's meeting. Member Bosman, I note you.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Chair, I just wanted to come back to the response that the HOD gave with regards to the staff. I also note that it says in the report on page 15 that a meeting was convened where a decision was taken that the chairperson of the Western Cape Language Committee will fulfill the role, the responsibility of an accounting authority on behalf of the public entity. And I just wanted to check, according to my understanding of the Public Finance Management Act, is it not the accounting officer of the department that becomes the accounting authority? And I just wanted to check, I don't think I got enough response in terms of how not having a permanent staff has impacted the work of the committee. Maybe the question I should ask is, can the committee do more if it had a dedicated staff? Because from what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of requests coming for translation services, and that keeps the departmental staff very busy. So how is that impacting on the work of this entity? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Bosman. I give over to the department and the Language Commission.
Okay. Maybe just to start with the second part of the question, just to say, I think in the ideal situation, obviously, Member Bosman, it's always better if you actually have a full situation where it stands independently and it can actually operate on its own. However, we didn't go for that model because it's too expensive as a model. And in fact, so we got the dual model. So just maybe to answer that, just in terms of the accounting authority issue, so this is it's a legal interpretation that our legal people gave us in relation to the fact that the committee is actually the accounting authority. So essentially, because the committee is the accounting authority and the staff of the department was seconded in, the authority rests with the committee and hence in the chairperson. So that's essentially it. But Guy can add if I've left anything out in relation to the two responses I just gave now.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, HOD is covered most of it, but the part that Member Bosman was also alluding to was the requirement by the Western Cape Language Committee, and it's a similar requirement also in the Western Cape Cultural Commission. The reason that requirement now falls away is because the PFMA is the overarching framework legislation which was sort of specifically enacted to ensure uniformity across all provinces in relations to the administration of public entities, etc. And that act came after the Western Cape Language Committee and the Western Cape Cultural Commission. And it now supersedes. So in terms of the PFMA, the commission is the accounting authority, unlike what the Act, the Western Cape Languages Act was saying. And because that is a governance role, what the PFMA says then gets the prominence. So that is why we had to go with the PFMA rather than with the Provincial Languages Act as well as the Cultural Commissions Act. Thank you, Chair.
Members, I trust that you find that in order we have tabled the entire report for Language Commission in terms of the annual submission for 2019-2020. I will be affording any closing remarks from the chairperson or the CEO at this stage. I trust that there is no closing remarks.
Just a small thank you, Chairperson. We really appreciate the engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I trust that you will have a good day further and weekend. Like I stated earlier on, the entities, once we have concluded, are able to excuse themselves from the meeting. However, should you wish to remain on the platform, you are also welcome to do so. To the Language Commission, thank you so much. Members, we will head over directly to the Cultural Commission. I have noted the chair lady is on line. Chair Lady Fani, can I note you for any opening remarks from your side? Thank you for your attendance here today.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Good afternoon. Am I audible, Chair?
You are rather soft. If you can just speak closer to the mic, then it should all be good.
Okay, I hope I sound better now.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members, Chair, and also afternoon to my colleagues from the department. Chair, just to thank you as well for this opportunity for us to present our annual report for the year under review. Just to highlight a few things from the report before the members dive deep into the questions. Chair, I think that the biggest challenge for the entity remains with our facilities. I think that the safety and staff of our clients, as well as our staff at the facilities, is a big challenge, and we are very grateful for the assistance from Public Works as well as the department in helping us to mitigate these challenges. We have improved, Chair, I can say, with the installation of our alarm systems and also the appointment of service providers in the form of security. Just to highlight also, Chair, another achievement, we have created job opportunities at our facilities through the EPWP program. The Commission has created about 30 job opportunities for the unemployed youth who reside in the areas where our facilities are located. And if members also noted in our annual report, we have a new performance indicator, and that change will also be highlighted in our report as well. And just from my side, thank you, Chair, and I look forward to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair Lady, for your attendance here today. Members, I am going to table the first half of the entire report. The report would indicate pages 1 to 81. Let's go from pages 1 to 41. Is there any questions in terms of the annual report for Cultural Commission? I think one of my ones, as members are raising their hands, and the chair lady touched on it as well. the security issue is of a concern, and I am glad that you have raised it as well. Because if we have a situation that due to crime, where facilities are basically, as indicated in the report, forced to increase their security measures, which obviously then places a strain on the budget. If I can hear from the Commission in terms of the strain and how that impacted the work of the Commission, but also if there's any engagement with regard to the South African Police Service or even the Department of Community Safety in terms of helping and assisting in that regard. But I am seeing one hand. I just need to open up my participant list to see whose hand is up. Wasim, are you able to help me? I see a hand is up, but I'm unable to see whose hand it is.
Honorable Member Kama.
Member Kama, why am I missing you, sir? I see, I note Member Kama. Member Kama, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. I thought you were noting first, Chair. Thanks. Let me also welcome the remarks from the chair of the commission. My question, Chair, is on page 23 when it deals with the cultural councils. I think even there the purpose of these councils is stipulated. But I want to check, Chair. I can imagine that the commission must have also been concerned about the response they received out of the annual funding call, which was to the 31 registered cultural councils, but only 9 responded to that, which only 5 were approved. Now, what I want to check, Chair, firstly is on the if you can talk to us on this, and even on what would have possibly led to others being not approved. Is it that because you had a target of 5, and what criteria is used, Chair? Because if I link this to, because you would see on the table, there is a, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but if it's wrong, I'm sorry. There's a, I think it's a Kwa tribal house, Cape Koi, that was given a 30,000 rand funding, and the description of that project that we're going to have is conference. Now, I want to understand as to what is this funding intended for, and linking it to perhaps the mandate of the commission and these councils. Or elaborate on what conference perhaps is this, Chair. You said we're doing until page 40, Chair. If we can also speak on the I think on page 31, when it looks at the board charter, you'd have some members who would only attend maybe like 3 meetings, and Chair, I think in part of the interviews that would have for different entities, one of the important questions that we ask is the availability of the candidates to attend these meetings, because you would see there that others have perhaps attended like 7 meetings, but you'd have, for example, there I see Vet Boy John Cornelius attended 3 meetings, and if you can speak to the challenges it comes to attendance and commitment of your members of the committees, because I see others, there's quite a lot of resignations, but there are others also. It's not only Vetboy, there are others that would have a very low number of attendance, which is 3 2. You know, if you can speak to that. And my last question, Chair, on page 40, I think is my last question, even for the commission. I see there on your key emerging risks for the following financial year, that there's a risk which needs to be considered in the next financial year, which relates to the entity's ability to continue and recover its business during and after COVID. I'm sure it's COVID-19, not COVID-1, COVID-19 pandemic. How are you going to mitigate this risk, or what are the plans to mitigate this risk? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Kama. Is there any other members? I'll give over to the chair lady or the department to answer, or the CEO. Over. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm just going to ask Ms. Moleleki to respond on the policy procedures regarding the cultural councils and the funding of these cultural councils. And then I'm going to follow up on the key emergent risks for the following year, and also the attendance as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. In terms of the security challenges that was referred to, were there security challenges? Just to say upfront, yes, Chairperson, the facilities are, we have experienced challenges during the year under review, from vandalism. There was an arson attack at Okyuesta. One of the salais was burned down during a demonstration. But just to say that how we have attended to it, or the committee, the commission is working, and the department is working very, very closely with Department of Community Safety. Community Safety, Safety and Liaison has done a risk assessment. And just to say to the committee, the recommendations of the risk assessment has been implemented. The committee, sorry, not the committee, the commission has put up various infrastructural arrangements at the facilities, from 24-hour security at Okyuesta and Groot Drakenstein. The other facilities has armed response. There is at the facilities is also the fence at the facilities has been replaced. The one at Malpos or Pisia, that fence has been replaced. The housing fencing has been replaced at Okyuesta. We've also, the commission and the department has also put in floodlights to increase the visibility at the facilities. So just to say that a number of infrastructural changes has been made at the facilities. There's also cameras at the facilities now. So when you're at the gate, it is easy for the staff inside the facility to see who is at the gate, and there's also bells installed at the gate. So in terms of the facilities, just to say that we have been positively responding to the risk assessment report and install the necessary um, um, equipment, and also through the department has made sure that we have implemented the recommendations at the facilities. So that is in terms of the security changes that we've made at the different facility to mitigate that risk. In terms of the cultural councils, for the year under review, there was I just think quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 7 applications that the commission received, and from that 7, 5 of that which is reflected in the annual report has been approved. Now, before I go to the ones that has not been approved, just to say that for the cultural council, there are 3 aspects of which the cultural councils can apply for. The one is that they can apply for conferences. Now, what conferences entail is any conferences that a cultural council has in terms of engaging with the organization or dealing with any cultural aspect or cultural matter. The other one is for programs, if they have any event for the year that they applying for. And the third aspect is the aspect of research. The commission then give a contribution up to the value of 30,000. So for argument's sake, if the conference is 70,000, the total of the expenditure will be 70,000. The commission will then give them 30,000 towards that conference. They would have to formally apply. They would also have to put their business a proposal to the commission. The commission will then, through the Cultural Council Committee, view all the proposals, look at the outcomes as stipulated in their proposals, and on the basis of that will then approve the proposal. If they have received money in the previous financial year, we would also want them to submit an account of how that money will be spent. For new proposals, we would look at the infrastructural arrangement and whether they have the capacity to effectively and efficiently manage government funds. So that is what we will do. The 2 that has not been approved, the one was the Esekwa Kultura, or the Esekwa Cultural Council, and they have not complied in terms of the governance requirements, and one of it is whether they have at least a constitution, whether they constituted. Secondly, whether they have the infrastructural arrangement, can they manage the money, government money effectively. So they haven't complied to the criteria set for approving applications. The second one that has not been approved as well is the Khoisan Indigenous Women in Action, and they have not been approved because the project was then referred to social development, because the Cultural Council Committee then viewed that proposal and they were of the opinion that that proposal is best suited with the Department of Social Development. So those are the ones around the cultural councils. Is just to find out, is that Chairperson. So that is from my side.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Molly Leki. Thank you for your input here today. Members, I will table the entire report. Any questions? Any input? Any comments? From pages 1 to 81. Any questions? Is there any closing remarks from the chair lady? Ms. Fanny, are you online? Mr. Matthews, you can confirm that we have temporarily lost the chair lady, or am I not?
No, she doesn't. It doesn't show that she's in the meeting. It might be an issue of connectivity, so
okay,
you may
no
just
problem.
Continue.
Yeah.
No problem,
Chairperson, I
members.
think she was having connectivity issues earlier, so it may just be that, Chair.
No problem at all. Should she arrive back again, we will then take it from there. But as far as where we are now, I consider the entities to have been concluded. Members, it is now 15:31. I am going to request that we take a quick 5-minute comfort break for those that have, for each and every one, if you want to make coffee or have a cool drink. It's not drinking time yet, but if there's anything that you would like to do in the next 5 minutes, Minister, I sincerely trust that you are accommodating, and I trust that you will accommodate us today as a committee. I felt that it was incumbent on us to commence with the entities, as we didn't know exactly how much time we will be taking with the department. But in the next 5 minutes, we will commence. I consider the meetings afternoon, members. The meeting will commence. We are dealing with the annual report. We've covered the entities up to date, the Language Commission, Heritage Western Cape, as well as the Cultural Commission. First and foremost, again, thank you to the entities for presenting and for being here today and answering any questions. To the CEOs and the chairpersons and the entire board of the various entities, your work is highly appreciated, and we thank you today that you have honored your the commitment to be here today. Members, I will now be reporting now be tabling the annual report for the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport. As you have noted in the document, it is 272 pages. There's Part A, Part B, C, D, and E. Part C will be dealt with in Scoper, dealing with the governance section, and the committee will then deal with A, B, D, and E. I trust that you find that in order. I will now table the Part A, which include the forward of the minister under general information. And I will also, the minister indicated earlier on that she will make closing remarks. But is there any, where we are now, HOD, is there anything that you want to add?
Thank you, Chair. Just a note from our side. It's Part A, Part B, and Part D.
Let me just, my dog
C is governance, C is governance, and E is financials. So that's Scoper. I'm just recording.
Wayne, you need to. My dog is biting me, members. So sorry. Wait, boy. Okay. Oh, I have marks all over me. Thank you. Let me deal. Thank you for that clarity, HOD. Members, I will now take a round in terms of Part A. Do I see any hands? Members, are you back online? Member Bosman, Member Botha, Member Brinkhuis, Member Kama, Member Windvogel?
I am, Chair. Member Kama.
We are, Chair.
Thank you so much.
We are here with you.
Thank you so much. In terms of the general information, I will table that entire section. I see Member Bosman. I will note you, sir. Member Bosman.
Sorry, Chairperson, technology failed me there. I couldn't find the button to unmute myself. Chair, I was just checking. It's noted there that the three public libraries that were broken into, I just wanted to find out whether the security arrangements have been increased at these libraries and whether this was sort of once-off incidences, and if maybe the department can speak a little bit in the section about what the financial implications were. I note one of these break-ins was in my constituency at the Calitzdorp Library. So I just wanted to find out what impact this has had on service delivery to those communities, especially right after sort of this happened, the lockdown happened as well. So the department can maybe give us an indication of what the cost has been of these break-ins to the department in terms of getting them back up and running. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Bosman. Member Botha, I know we have engaged regarding a number of questions and the technology interference your side, but I will note you now. Member Botha. Let us first go to Member Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair. My first question will be on page 9, and I think I'm starting to ask. I'm starting to ask this question, Chair, in each and every meeting of this nature. Now, I want to check, Chair, because paragraph 3 there from the forward by the MEC speaks about the highlights of the year, which include the International Netball Federation announcing that the Cape Town will be the host of the 2023 Netball World Cup. I want to get an update, if we can get an update, Chair, in terms of the Netball World Cup legacy project of the department, and perhaps talk to the impact that COVID-19 and the lockdown might have had on the department's preparations for the World Cup. The second question I have, Chair, which is also on the same on page 9, paragraph 3 on the second sentence, that speaks on the that the department also continued to financially support the sporting federations and cultural organizations. I want to check there, Chair, with regards to financial support for sporting federations and cultural organizations, if there was a certain percentage which was earmarked for the grassroots teams and organizations, or I mean federations or organizations, and what mechanisms are in place to ensure the funding reaches that level, Chair. The other question I have, Chair, is on paragraph 4 on the same page, second sentence, where it starts with the department aligned its business to the provincial strategic plan to give effect particularly to vision-inspired priorities on safe and cohesive communities. I want to check there, Chair, with regards to the pursuit of social cohesion, what programs and expenditure thereof that was in place to address the serious challenge of racism in the province, which has later, Chair, resulted to the battle of what some call the two extremes. If you saw what happened even in the Brackenfell, Chair. So those are the questions that I have for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Member Kama. I see, Member Botha, you are flickering on the screen. We are unable to hear you at this time. Can we try another round if I can hear Member Botha?
Chair, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you.
I have posed my follow-ups in regard to what Member Bosman was asking in the chat bar, if you can read it from there, please.
Thank you.
Because my signal is very dodgy.
Thank you so much. I see that one. HOD and Minister, in terms of Member Bosman's question, Member Botha latched on regarding what was some of the structural damages, if any, and what is the status of repairing on the structural damages. Furthermore, on pages 9 in terms of the department report, how has the department ensured that its stakeholders and the public at large have had access to its annual report? Another one on page 14 regarding the HOD, the regarding the break-ins of the 3 libraries. There's reference to the details in the financials. In light of the scoper only going to deal with the financials in January, if the HOD can speak to damages and how have these break-ins disadvantaged these communities in terms of that scenario and the damages, but also if the HOD can speak to how severe structural damages was, if at any at all, and the progress on reports if this is necessary. HOD, I will note you.
Chairperson, thank you very much. We're going to try and answer it as a team. Maybe just to say, I cannot see the chat bar. For some reason, don't have the capability. I'm not sure why. Sometimes these things work and they don't. So I'll try and answer.
It's not because you are leaving us, sir. It's not because.
Okay. Chairperson, maybe then just to start with the question about the libraries, and Cecilia and others will come in. Maybe to say that we, on that page in the libraries, I think that was on page 14. Yeah, on page 14. If you go to page 247 of the report, I know it's in the scoper side, but on page 247, under the notes on the top of page 248, it says there libraries at break-ins during the period 1 April to 20 July at the following libraries. Computers were stolen at Eastern Public Library in Worcester with an estimated value of 55,000 on 10th May. Carlosville Library with an estimated value of 15,000 on 31st May. And Samandian Public Library with an estimated value of 15,000 on 30th of April. All stolen items were insured and will be replaced by the municipality. Further break-in occurred at Maritzburg Library in Beaufort West on 30th June. However, no provincial assets were stolen or damaged. And then Bavo Library had a fire outbreak in the storage room, with no damages to provincial assets on 13 July 2020. So the detail, just in terms of the libraries, is there. If Cecilia can add, but if I can just dole out the questions, Chair, if you will allow me. If London could also just speak to the question on the netball. Essentially on the netball, and then I would like to. So I think I have answered the questions about the libraries. I think I'd just like to try and answer Member Karma's questions, and then Guy and Cecilia, anything, anybody else, anything that I've left out. So maybe just to say on the question that Member Karma asked about grassroots, it's sort of linked also to this question about social cohesion. So I think to answer that question, we need to probably look at the entire business of the department and, to basically see that if you look at the vision statement of the department, then you'll see that social cohesion is in everything we actually do. If you look at like what is grassroots level inside sport, obviously we're looking at the base level of sport is in the club structures. So we have lots of support to those structures. There's mass opportunity and development centers where we're actually running programs for children at the grassroots level. If you look at the work that's being done in the libraries, if you look at the work that's being done in arts and culture, they're all about giving opportunities for people who potentially would not have those opportunities ordinarily. And a lot of the work is rooted, let's just say, in the I'm going to say in the poorer communities, although the length and breadth of this department's work is from rich to poor and across race and across everything. Then lastly, maybe just to say that, the challenges, it's not only racism is one aspect, but there's also class issues. There are many, there's religious issues. There are many different divisions in our society. And I think what our department is looking at is what are the things that can actually unify us. And so if you look at the things that we engage in, they are great unifiers, because sport is something that unifies. It doesn't matter what you look like, how you speak, what language you speak, what religious denomination you're in. If you play sport, the only rule there is that whatever rule sport gives. So a lot of our business, if you go through the report, a lot of our business is focused on all of that. So let me just say those opening remarks. Cecilia, you can add, London can add, Guy can add if I've left out. Thank you.
Thank you, HOD, and good afternoon, Chair and members. The library break-ins were all very opportunistic during this time of lockdown. So it's mostly was through windows that they broke or doors that they ripped off, and it was quick in and outs. That's why you will see that it's mostly just quick laptops they grabbed or a printer or so. So the municipalities are responsible for the security. They have all looked at their individual cases. So depending on where they could afford, they would get someone, a security company, or otherwise just secured their doors or windows. But there was no structural damage as such that couldn't quickly be fixed, and they all are operating fine now. Thank you.
Okay, Linda.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members and everyone else. I will deal with the netball question, and HOD, there was also a question about the funding to sport federations as well.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So the netball question, since the announcement that Cape Town will be the host, we've had engagements with the National Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, as well as the City of Cape Town and Netball South Africa. Following these engagements over this last year, we have nominated one member from the provincial government, one member from the City of Cape Town, and then 2 members from NSA, the Netball South Africa, as well as the Minister, Mr. Natin Tetwa, also nominated people to a board. So the board of netball is presently being formed in order to run the World Cup. Netball South Africa also appointed a project manager to assist with the rollout. And in terms of the legacy project, we as the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport in the Western Cape, we are responsible for the upgrading or construction of 20 to 30 netball courts by 2023. And what we have done is we have so far made available funding and also opened up 15 netball courts around the Western Cape. So we are in various stages of construction or upgrade as well as transfer. The provincial treasury has made available 4 million rand this year, which was gazetted a few weeks ago, and we are now in the process of engaging with those municipalities in order for the work to start as soon as the builder's holiday has ended. So we are on track, Chairperson and members, and then also in terms of the COVID-19, we used the time to do virtual meetings with Netball Western Cape, Netball South Africa, as well as the local Netball Cape Town structure as well. So in terms of the COVID-19, all our meetings between April and September were virtual, and then the first face-to-face meeting took place in October this year. We've also completed the budget for that, for the World Cup. So in February 2021, the International Netball Federation will be making an in-loco inspection here in Cape Town in mid-February to meet with the local organizing committee that will then look at the progress where we are. But the event is scheduled for July 2023. So we are on track, Chairperson, because we still have 2 financial years to go. But all the paperwork have now been completed at this stage. In terms of our support to federations and to grassroots, we have 2 systems of funding within the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport in relation to sport federations. The first one we have is the transfer funding approach, in which federations apply on an annual basis between April and September each year. They fill out the requisite forms, indicate what they will be needing funding for, and a committee consisting of the chairpersons of the sport councils as well as officials from the department then meet to decide on the allocations that need to go to specific federations. We service close to 130 sport federations across all 6 districts of the Western Cape, and on average it ranges between 75,000 and 100,000 rand that is transferred on an annual basis to federations, and this includes support to major events, support for development, transformation, as well as capacity building. We also, in terms of goods and services, we support clubs in the club development program by making available 15,000 Rand per club for transport, and we also buy equipment for clubs that are on the club development program. So these are the two ways that we assist sport federations and clubs directly, and then we also have a schools program that we also assist with as well. HOD, those are my inputs for now.
Okay, thank you very much. Guy, is there anything you wish to add on the arts and culture side?
I think you covered quite well, HOD, on the social cohesion. So everything we do is based on social cohesion. For instance, you'll see later in the report the choir festivals that we have. The one that we had in Saldanha Bay had 4 language groups. It had Nama, English, Afrikaans, and Xhosa. So all of those choirs participating in a non-competitive environment and seeing elders and children alike participating in the same choir. So those are the types of opportunities that the work that DCAS does, that it allows us to bring people together to be exposed to each other. We also do the social cohesion community conversations, and the year under review, it was, we had one in the city of Cape Town and then one at Lwandle Migrant Labour Museum. And we were there in partnership with the CRL Rights Commission. And it was a very successful one and highlighted the importance of the family, the importance of storytelling as a tradition, and how important it is as a tool for passing on wisdom, skills, values, and also educating ourselves and how to draw in the older people. So those are the kind of initiatives that we engage in across the province. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, HOD and Chief Directors and officials. Please, my little puppy is no longer with me in the room. I note Member Brinkhuis. Member Brinkhuis, regarding your question specifically to pages 1 until page 28, is there any question from your side? I see your hand is raised.
Yes, Chair, thank you. The department, I would like to know if there's a specific program or process in place whereby the department must or should go out to the rural communities and look for and see the different talents, for example, in cricket and in rugby, and in that way make sure that the provincial teams in the Western Cape are well represented by all the communities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Brinkhuis. HOD, I wouldn't want to stifle the question. Although it is broad at this stage, I would allow you to answer from your side, sir.
Okay, I mean, it's a very broad question, but I think maybe just to try and make it a little bit more specific, can I ask Taba and London if they can just perhaps go for an answer, just in terms of some of the talent ID programs we have, but maybe just as a backdrop to say that we do have a presence in most of the rural communities across the Western Cape. So in the schools program, school sport program, in the mod program, in the club development program, we do have, so obviously any talent that comes through there, we would identify. But let me hand over to my colleagues in sport.
Thanks, HOD. Thanks, Chair. Within the club development, we've got 83 clubs that form part of the club development that are in the rural areas that were chosen by sport federations. Those clubs are in the program for a period of 3 years. And in that period of 3 years, we provide them with transport, we provide them with capacity building, which includes the capacitation of coaches, the capacitation of administrators, and the capacitation of clubs. And also included there is the provision of equipment and attire. So there's lots of support there. Thank you, HOD.
So HOD, just to add, and Chairperson, we also, in terms of the National Conditional Grant Framework, we are also compelled to support rural clubs. So not only is it an obligation on us, but also a legal duty. And 2 years ago, we also took teams to the national rural games that took place in Limpopo. And some of our netball and rugby teams actually won their sections, with the result that just before COVID in February 2020, the National Department built multi-purpose facilities in Beaufort West and in Laingsburg as prizes for and in Stellenbosch to support the rural communities as well. So HOD and members, we do have a firm rural program, and we have representation in every district and in every town within the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bauer. Members, as indicated earlier on, and thank you so much to the HOD for assisting with the direction. I'm free now in terms of to be stating this again. In terms of part A, B, C, and D, that's what we will deal with. Although governance will also be dealt with in Scopa, I will be allowing members to ask questions should they have at this stage. But part E, regarding the financial information, that will be dealt with Scopa strictly. Members, in terms of pages 4 to 28, I trust that we are covered. I see Member Bosman.
Chair, I
Chair,
see
my
we...
hand was before Member Bosman. My hand was up long for a
I
long
still
time
don't I still don't see your hand even now, Member Van Vogel, but
Chair,
please
Member
allow me
can
to,
go before
there I
me.
see your hand. I
Member
will
Van
note Member
go before
Bosman
me.
now, and then Member Van Vogel.
No, Chair, Member Van Vogel can go before me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and Mr. Bosman. Chair, my question is still on page 11. So I'm not sure, am I allowed to ask question now still on the pages that was presented?
For you, definitely.
Thank you so
You
much,
can
Chair.
go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair. Chair, mine is on page 11. If you look at paragraph 2, what I want to know is what are the details and reasons for not achieving the targets? And what improvement measures have been put in place? And if you can go to paragraph 3, whether the department is in a position to present a quick comparison of how these numbers have changed when compared to 2015, and whether the committee can be finished with details of all restrictions of government funding during the period under review. I think that's all from my side. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Van Vogel. I see Member Bosman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, since we've now ventured into sort of general questions, allow me to please ask a question, something that came up during our oversight visit to Beaufort West as the Education Standing Committee, was that when students at schools participate in sporting activities, provincial-wide sporting activities, specifically students from the Beaufort West area, they have to travel to Oudtshoorn for trials or for practice. What is there a specific program within the department to assist these students with transport? Because one of the things we picked up in Beaufort West is that it is the teachers that end up paying for the transport for these learners.
Thank you so much, Member Bosman. I'll allow the department to answer the questions posed. In moving forward, we will, however, be strict in terms of the relevant section we are dealing with in order for us to adequately deal with the annual report, and I will further encourage members to make use of their parliamentary privileges in terms of channeling questions to the relevant department for answer. But thank you, Member Bosman, as well as Member Van Vogel. That will be the last round for part A. I now see the HOD.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, maybe just to say, I did in my opening remarks speak about the 101 out of 105 that we achieved, but let's go to the 4 that we did not achieve. So one of them is to do with records accessed by researchers in the archive. And essentially, you know, there are, I think it's 7 floors in the archives. And the lift broke inside that archive for nearly half the year. So you cannot, as the archive works, it's not like you go yourself and you choose items. Items are selected for you by people who work there, and then you in a reading room, which only takes 20 people with cameras on it, so that you can't actually take the original material because you're dealing with original material. So if you're a researcher and you request 10 items and the lift wasn't working for virtually half the year, people couldn't bring you the 10 items. They could only bring you perhaps 5 because that's all they could carry up and down the stairs. So that just had a cumulative effect over time. So that one is with the lift, we could not achieve it. Then the other one is, the other 2 are both linked to a library. Cecilia can give the detail, but it's to do with the completion certificate date, which wasn't dated. So the library is up, it's operational, it's working, but the completion certificate date was in the after March 31. So we couldn't count it, both of those indicators. And then the other indicator is a difference of opinion we had on a definition for what constituted a project with the Auditor General. So we reported 7. Our target was 7. Lyndon can give the detail. 7 of something, and they believe that the evidence only indicated 6. But in the end, we agreed to accept their findings. So we got 6 out of 7. That's just in relation to those targets. And then maybe just to the question that was also asked by member Van Vogel about have these numbers increased. But I think, you know, for example, the libraries have increased, you know, in very small numbers. So we've got the number of libraries increased over time. But remember, there's mobile libraries, there's other libraries. It's not just so easy to maybe increase those numbers. And then like the other numbers in that third paragraph are things like the sports federations. So they also have increased slightly only. Because remember, the only X amount of sports, and it's unlikely, for example, if you're going to have football and you have it in 7 regions, that will stay 7. If there are only 7 regions, for example, or there's 6 regions, five districts in the city, that's what it will be. The 180 clubs for the club development program, that number changes depending on the budget we receive in relation to the conditional grant. But let me hand over to Cecilia, who can actually maybe just add if she wishes to, and then also I can ask whether Paul and Lyndon can just maybe talk to the last question in relation to the travel situation. Thank you.
Thank you, HOD, and thank you, Chair. The 2 indicators that library service didn't make is both in the conditional grant section of the indicators, and they both we didn't reach because of the same reason. We gave the Beaufort West municipality funds for upgrading the Kwamandle Kosi library. So after the business plans and everything was signed off and approved, they then decided that they no longer wanted the funding because they're going to put in a request for a new library. So we didn't meet our targets on number of library upgrades, and we didn't meet our targets in the funding transferred to municipality because then we didn't transfer the funds to Beaufort West. So it's the same reason for 2 indicators. Thank you.
Lyndon and Paul?
Thank you, HOD. So just in relation to the question about the numbers, HOD, you are correct that the numbers for the sport federations will remain constant because there are certain specified requirements in order to become a federation. You must have four clubs within a district. You must have 100 members that must be signed up as members. So generally speaking, at this stage, there'll probably be some new federations in the Central Karoo area. We have done some development work there, and about 7 new federations have now applied to the Central Karoo Sport Council for membership. So we hope that that they will receive their membership this year, and they would then be entitled to apply to the to the Department for funding support from April next year. In terms of the club development and other things, we are heavily dependent upon the conditional grant, and we are affected by budget cuts. So 5 or 6 years ago, the club development program would have had 300 clubs on the club development program. But due to the budget cuts, we are now down to 180 clubs. And just in this year alone, during the first 6 months of the year, our grant got cut by 22 million rand. So it vacillates depending on the budget. Then I will ask Paul to just comment on the Beaufort West Oudtshoorn School trial situation. Thank you, HOD.
Good afternoon, members and chair. With regards to the traveling of the youngsters, Lyndon has just touched on the Sport Council situation. And what we are doing, we're in fact working in the Central Karoo area now, assisting them with the establishment of structures in the various codes of sport so that they can actually play sport in the Central Karoo area, because currently in a number of sports, they are traveling to the Eden area where they're falling under the Eden Sports Council, and that's why they're going to the Oudtshoorn area. So that's in the one instance. In the other instance, we're working together with the Western Cape Education Department, and we're in fact establishing a multi-purpose shared facility, which will particularly be used by school-going youth. And that shared facility is going to be addressing various codes of sport, which means that they won't have to travel. For instance, in the hockey, the need is to play on AstroTurf. So there isn't a hockey AstroTurf in the Beaufort West area. So they actually travel to George to play on a hockey AstroTurf. So we're busy with the education department constructing a hockey AstroTurf, amongst other things. And that will be finished in the middle of February 2021. So that is how we're trying to assist in the Central Karoo, Beaufort West area. Thank you.
Chairperson, I think that we've tried to answer the questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, HOD. Members, I consider that round as being final. We have dealt with Part A. As I indicated earlier on, we will deal with Part A, B, C, D, but E will be dealt with in scope. I will take the liberty of tabling the entire Part B at this stage from pages 29 to 134. I will take a number of rounds if necessary. So between pages 29 and 134, the entire Part B on the performance information is now accordingly tabled. I will take a number of rounds depending on the hands that I note. Members, any questions, input, clarity seeking, information on any of the pages as listed in Part B? Members, I note no hands. I have one question via Member Botha in terms of page number 34, HOD, regarding the archive service. On the family history workshop and the communities to record their oral histories, have rural communities been part of the program, and how have the department communicated this program? That's the first part. And the second part, what was the department's results on their own evaluation of this specific program? Members, I still see no hands my side. To our procedural officer, Mr. Matthews, are you able to note any hand your side? I see Member Bosman now.
That's
Member
only
Bosman, you may go.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I just wanted to know if the department could perhaps give us some more details of the ECM review that took place and the improvement plan and the new business case that was put together. What were some of the recommendations that came out of that? And how far is the department in rolling out ECM capability across the other Western Cape departments? I remember last year when we spoke about this, there was an issue of funds that were transferred to the Department of the Premier to pay for some of those transversal contracts when it comes to the digital signatures. So I just wanted to find out if we can get an update on that. And also if just linking to the earlier question around the problems with the elevators at the archive, what progress is being made in terms of digitizing the archive and how does that link to ECM? Thank you for that open out there.
Thank you so much. Members, that is the first round. The entire part B in terms of performance information 29 to 134. Before I hand over to the department, do I see any further hand? I have received communication from member Kama that he has had an emergency, but as soon as he's able to sort that out, he will be logging in again. I see no further hands. Over to the department.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I ask, so the three questions, just in terms of, they all relate to Namaza's area of work, basically. If Namaza could just answer the question about the archive, the ECM review, and the digitization. Namaza, can I hand over to you? And then, Cecilia, if you want to say anything about the storytelling, you can also indicate. But let's hand it to Namaza first. Namaza.
Okay, thank you, HOD. Good afternoon, Chairperson, members, Minister, and colleagues. The first one regarding the family history workshops. What we do with family history workshops, we work with researchers that are doing the research in the archives. They are also assisting us, some of them in terms of hosting these workshops, but we do also host them as the staff of the archives. But specifically in the year under review, we had the workshops that were done by Mr. Ibrahim Roda and also by one of the other researchers, Mr. Aubrey Springfield. In terms of the advertisement of the, or publishing the invitations, we do have in the website of the department, we put the program in the website, and also we also send information to the researchers that we have, and also the researchers themselves, they also share the information in with their networks. So those are the kind of forums that we are using to share the information about the availability of the workshops. Because these workshops, for example, were part of the archives, annual Archives Awareness Week, which we used to have every year, except that we couldn't have it now this year because of COVID. But it used to be an annual event of creating awareness about the archives. Then in terms of the rural areas and including the oral history aspects. The oral history that we did was, we did 3 aspects about Pakkelstop in George, and we also did one about Goedverwacht. So we did interviews about the history of the Pakkelstop and also the establishment of the church and also establishment of the community of Goedverwacht. Then in terms, maybe if I can touch on the archives aspects all, and then I'll deal with ECM if members allow me to do so. To talk to the issue of the lifts. In terms of the progress about the lifts, both lifts are now working because what happened is that while the lifts were not working, there was a project that the Department of Transport and Public Works started in November 2019 of replacing the 2 lifts with new lifts. So one lift was already working by end of July, and then they continued. The other lift was now finalized now in November. So both we've got now 2 new lifts that are working in our section. So that has been sorted. And then in terms of the digitization, linking it to the work, the ECM, we have had a project of digitization that we started in 2014 in the archives, which we are continuing. At first, we had a service provider that assisted us and then shared the skills with the staff. Currently, we are using our own staff to do the digitization. The digitization program is going well. The only challenge is that there's a lot of archival material that need to be digitized. But we had to prioritize because part of the priority is the records that are in a bad state in terms of being handled on a regular basis. So that as I say, we had to prioritize because of the extent of the collection that needs a digitization. In terms of the link now between digitization and my content or ECM, all the digitized images that have been finished are sitting or are kept in my content. So they are available in my content. But what is happening at the moment maybe is also to indicate that at this stage we are also busy with another project in this so we started in this financial year, which will be concluded implemented in the next financial year. Is about the website of the archives, so that now members of the public can be able to access these digitized images, because currently we are the ones that are able to access them, and we do allow members of the public or the researchers to access some of the records, but only in our reading room at the moment. But in future, we want the members of the public to access these records even outside of our space, which is now the archives building. Going now into the enterprise content management review. Yes, the review was concluded in 2018. And out of the review, first of all, I think before the review was done, there was issues around whether the enterprise content management is correctly placed within the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport. And in the review did confirm that it is correctly placed, because one of the things is that enterprise content management helps with the document and records management as a system. So while the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport has got a mandate to manage the records. So as a result, we have now agreed as part of our records management policy for Western Cape government bodies that enterprise content management, or my content, is the official electronic records management system of the Western Cape government. So we have implemented it as such. Some of the recommendations were also to say previously some of the work that was done on enterprise content management was done with staff that were identified to help with that. And in some instances, the records managers of the various departments who were currently and are currently managing the paper-based records were not involved, because now it is an electronic side of things. So the recommendations was that the records managers must also play a huge role in the implementation of electronic records management system, which is enterprise content management, and also the issues around the policies or policy frameworks that were needed to be implemented. Just to say, in terms of the update on the implementation and the recommendations and the action plans that needed to be done, we are I would safely say by now we are around 95% of implementation. We have done the policy framework, for all Western Cape government departments. We have also started to the governance structures, which include the ECM Business Forum and the ECM Steering Committee that involves all the departments of the Western Cape government. And we've also done certain documents that are also implemented, which include, for example, the electronic records naming conventions to make it a point that we standardize how the records are implemented. These governance structures, people have been appointed. We meet on a quarterly basis, so the work is carrying on. In terms of also the progress, maybe now it's not necessarily for 1920 financial year, because we by 1920 we already did 8 of the 13 Western Cape government departments. And the only departments that were not done by 1920 was Department of the Premier, Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, the Department of Transport and Public Works, and also the Department of Social Development. Also because the other 3 departments, Health, Public Works, and Social Development, started their systems before our rollout of the foundation pack. But what has happened in terms of progress, we have since done now which we will report for 2021 financial year. The Department of the Premier has been done. The Department of Agriculture has also been done. We are busy actually finalizing those processes. So we will be left with the 3 departments which we are engaging and we are supporting on the current systems, and we are doing the business analysis in terms of some of the work that need to be done in preparation for taking them over in the future years. Thank you.
Chairperson, I think we extensively answered those questions.
Indeed, HOD. Thank you so much. Members, as I indicated earlier on, we are dealing with Part B. The entire Part B has been tabled from pages 29 to 134. We've taken 1 round of questions. I now note Member Winvogel. Member Bosman, is your hand still from earlier?
Yes, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. Member Winvogel, you may go. Member Winvogel. Member Winvogel is covered. Thank you so much. Members, for one last round on this Friday evening, I want to again just echo that we are dealing with we have dealt with the entities, we are dealing with the department now. We've had extensive engagement throughout the year. Part B has been tabled, and I trust that we are able to move forward. Members, Part C, the entire Part C is now officially tabled. This is the governance section, which will also be dealt with in SCOPA. But if there's any pertinent question, specifically to pages 135 to 149, I will ask that you pose those questions now. But I'm also taking the liberty of tabling Part D. Part D is Human Resources Management, pages 150 to 180. I see no hands at this stage. Part C is tabled. It will also be dealt with in SCOPA, but if there's a pertinent question that you have, but I've also tabled Part D that deals with human resources within the annual report. I see no hands at this time.
Chair.
I see 2 hands quickly popped up. I see Member Winvogel and then Member Bosman.
Because Chair, my network is very bad. Tell me, are we at Part C now, governance? Chairperson? Chairperson, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Member Van Vogel. We have tabled Part C as well as Part D. Part C is governance. It will be dealt with in Scopa as well. But if you have a pertinent question with Part C, you may pose it now as well.
Okay. Chair, mine is on page 136.
You may
Can
go
you hear me,
ahead.
Chair?
Yes, you may go ahead.
I want to know what are the reasons for the members not attending all the scheduled meetings and what disciplinary measures are in place for the members. They do not attend meetings with no valid reasons.
Thank you so much. Is that all your side, Member Van Vogel? Member Bosman, I note you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I just wanted to check the one incident of fraud that is noted there. Is that also the same incident that was closed? And then my second question is with regards to employee well-being. Has the department done an assessment of the well-being of all of its employees within the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports and its entities on the impact of COVID on the staff of the department, and what has been some of the outcomes of that? I also wanted to find out if we are have we started the process of recruiting a new HOD, since we are losing our HOD to the WCED, and how far are we within that process? And what are some of the milestones that the department has reached? And then I wanted to check if there were any foreign workers employed in the department and at what level. Thanks, that's all for now, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Bosman. I'll give over to the HOD.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thanks for the questions. Maybe just to deal with the first question on page 136 about attendance, and maybe just to indicate that there is nobody who's absent from a meeting without a valid reason. So there is no need to take disciplinary action against anyone because they would have had valid reasons for missing their meetings. But maybe to just indicate that, for example, one of the members was not present with the department for 6 months, so therefore they only attended half the meetings. In other cases, it could be that they were sick and so on, but there would never be a situation where somebody would stay away without an apology, without a good reason. And these things do happen, Chair, in the course of things. So I'm also fairly confident, having looked at the scope and size of our committee and our Enterprise Risk Management and Ethics Committee, the scope and size of it, and the fact that we do discuss risk at all our meetings, that we are essentially covered by many things that happen inside the risk universe. So I think that's just to say that. So there's nobody that would have been absent that warrants disciplinary action, Chair. Then the other matter is that as far as the fraud case is concerned, that matter refers to the library matter dating back to 2012. If my memory serves me correctly. But if David is on the line, he can maybe correct me if I'm incorrect about that. But my understanding is that that could be the library matter that dates back to 2012 that is still open. And then I'm going to ask Sean if he can answer about well-being, just the well-being programs that we have. Then the department has also advertised for the new HOD. It's on the website. It went on the website, I think, last Friday. And the closing date for those applications is 18th January. And then the department does have one foreign worker who's working with the Cradle of Human Culture, advising us from an ecological point of view It's an Italian person who is steeped in the history of archaeology and so on, and is helping us with the work inside that area. Guy can add if he wishes to. So can we perhaps just start with the well-being, Sean, please?
Thank you,
Sean
HOD.
Julie, thank you.
Thank you, HOD. Thank you, Chairperson and members. So basically, the department has an independent service provider, Momentum, that does the counseling, makes counseling available to all of the staff. So throughout the lockdown period, we've been communicating with staff, giving them short information on lockdown, the impact, the psychological effect, and then also inviting them to make contact with the service provider so that they can get counseling on all levels, whether it's family, trauma, etc. So we haven't had a report back for this year yet, but we can probably make that report available as soon as it's issued to us, to the department, so that we can look at what the different areas of counseling was and the amount of staff that called in. So that's just on the counseling, especially during this COVID period. Chair, I hope I've covered that. Thank you.
Guy? Sorry, Chairperson, I just want to know if Guy wants to add anything on the foreign worker.
I just wanted to say, HOD, she is a permanent resident, and it is in line with what we are able to appoint. Thank you.
Okay, Chairperson, I think we covered.
Members, as I stated again, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, this is now the second round for Part C as well as Part D. I note Member Bosman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I'm just coming to page 175 on Part D, Human Resource Management. I just want to know if the department can perhaps expand more on it lists the types of misconduct hearings addressed. And I'm looking at the types of misconduct, and then I'm looking at the work that the department does in terms of promoting its code of conduct. It seems, from my understanding, that if the code of conduct says one thing and then there's workshops held to sensitize members of staff to that, there seems to be a high number of quite sort of serious types of misconduct. So if the department can perhaps expand a bit more on the 5 types of misconduct, and perhaps take the committee into its confidence in terms of what the outcomes of that was. And I'm specifically interested in also the issue of sexual harassment, which is listed there. And I remember, if my memory serves me right, this was something that was in the media as well. So if the department can perhaps address the committee on that and what the outcomes of that was. Thank you, Chairperson.
Chairperson, just before you take the next question, can I just get clarity on what page it was referred to?
Page 175.
175.
Members, before the department answers, do I note any further hand? If not, we might conclude on this matter at this moment. For the sake of being very detailed and clear, Member Bosman, is there any further question from your side?
There might be, depending on the answers, Chair.
I hear you on that one. Member Winvogel, any new question?
Yeah, Chair, page 171, table 3.10.1. I just want to know, what are the reasons for the high percentage of days with no medical certificate? Page 171.
Thank you, Member Winvogel. I see Member Botha.
Chair, can you just give us a chance, please? Because I'm just trying to track 310.1.
No problem at all.
310.1. Okay. We're going to ask Warren to also come in if he can on the answer to that question. But yes, next question, Chair.
Member Botha, I note you.
Thank you, Chair. I might want to follow up depending on the response on 175. Thanks.
I'll give over to the department now. Thank you, Member Botha.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe just to indicate that I'm going to just give you, there were 5 disciplinary cases, okay? Willful or negligently mismanaging finances, the employee resigned. Steals, bribes, or commits fraud. The second case, employee resigned. Possesses or wrongfully uses property of the state. I think there was a recovery there, and then absent from work without reason or permission. There was dismissal. Sexual harassment, not guilty. So that's on. Warren's free to add if I left anything out. If Warren can come in, and then just in relation to the question on 310.1, why is it that there's without certificates? Remember, under our system, you only require, if you're absent for 1 day, don't require a certificate unless you obviously asked by your manager. If you're absent for 2 days or more, then you require a certificate, and then there's cycles as well, which Warren can maybe just explain. But there would be, if people take a day here and a day there, they don't require a certificate. Warren, can I ask you to come in, please?
Certainly, thank you, HOD. Chair, through you. The HOD is absolutely correct that in instances where employees take between 1 or 2 days sick leave, they're not required to substantiate it with a medical certificate. Obviously, they can if they are medical certificates, or if they have gone to the doctor, but it's not required in those instances. And in instances of 3 or more days, employees are supposed to provide a medical certificate, and then also in instances where managers identify trends or so forth, they can then also request a medical certificate at any point in time. Thanks, HOD.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. I see Member Bosman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I just wanted to check. So, as a note to page 175, what it says there is that the outcomes of disciplinary hearings refer to formal cases only. So I just wanted to ask, what would an informal disciplinary process be? And then I wanted to ask, of the employees, as the HOD listed it there, where those types of misconduct was discovered, those employees, did they resign after that process was concluded or during the process? Because at the top there, it says there, table 3.12.2, employee resigned during disciplinary hearings was only 2, but the HOD listed 4 at the bottom there. So I just wanted to check that those employees resigned during the disciplinary process, before the disciplinary process, or after that process was concluded, and then what would an informal disciplinary hearing refer to? And then if the department could perhaps give us some more clarity, or just expand a bit more on what the investigative process was to address those issues of sexual harassment, because we saw those allegations in the media, but there was no follow-up noise in the media about its outcomes. So was it just a grievance lodged with the department, or was there also processes that happened outside of the department, such as a complaint laid with SAPS, etc.? Thanks, Chair.
Warren, can I ask you to come in on just the questions, because there are only 2 employees that resigned. You can just try and assist with the answers, please, to the first question. And then just to talk about the informal processes as well. And I will deal with the question on sexual harassment.
Thank you so much, HOD. Just to double check, I want to check in with Member Botha. I saw your hand was raised. Are you covered? I trust that we can proceed. Over to you, HOD.
Thank you, Warren.
Thanks, HOD. Chair, through you again. Instances where verbal warnings are issued are not recorded as formal cases. Those are built up to cases should there be ongoing transgression. As an example, if an employee were to arrive late to work on a number of occasions and the supervisor were to issue a verbal warning, it's only once that a formal charge is made against that employee through the employee relations team that it's then constituted to be a formal charge against the employee for absenteeism or late coming. In that example, and then that is then dealt with as a formal case. HOD, I'm not sure if you're going to deal with the other questions related to the disciplinary cases.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, so HOD, I don't have the details of the processes with me that ensued or in relation to those two employees that have resigned. Those are both in relation to, well, the one was in relation to willfully or negligently mismanagement of finances, and the other one is for theft or committing fraud. But we can certainly provide more details to the committee if that is acceptable to the committee.
And maybe just to add, Chair, just on the sexual harassment issue. So full internal hearing was held, and then the person was found not guilty. As far as we were aware, no charges were laid externally at any SAPs, with SAPs.
Thank you so much, HOD. I see Member Bota's hand was up first, and then Member Bosman, your hand went up again.
Chair, thank you very much. I just want to know, in regard to the sexual harassment case, how did the department ensure that, and I take it, I assume, and the department must correct me if I am not correct, was it one staff member who lodged a complaint against another staff member? If so, in regard to the outcome of the case, how did the department ensure that both parties were not, how do I put this, ostracized thereafter? And then I want to know, Chair, can the committee get the privy to the content of this specific case? Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bota. Member Bosman.
Chair, I'm still not understanding what the process is that the department followed to investigate the sexual harassment case. I also wanted to ask what was the delay in dealing with this case? Because if I remember, these allegations came in August of 2019. So what was the delay? I remember reading that there was a 3-month delay in the actual hearing. And then I also want to ask, Chair, so the official that was, the person that was accused has been found not guilty by the department. And my assumption is that that person still works in the department. Does the person who laid the complaint still work within the department? And also in terms of when this was reported, when it was reported to the HR division within the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport, what were the steps taken to ascertain the veracity of this complaint, and sort of how was it sort of pushed up the chain of command, etc.?
Thank you so much, members. I trust that after the answering of these questions, we would be able to conclude, as the questions were very detailed at this stage from Member Botha as well as Member Bosman. So over to the department.
Chair, let me say this, that the department suspended the member immediately. The department went to Labour Relations. Through Labour Relations Department of the Premier, an independent commissioner was appointed to hear the case. Arguments were for and against, and in the end, the person was found not guilty. Just in terms of where that is. So I think it's that's all I can say on that case right now, Chair.
Member Botha, I see your hand.
Chair, just in regard to what Member Bosman was asking, and I'm following up on that. When was this case lodged? How soon after the case was lodged did the department start the process in regard to the investigation? How soon after? Thanks.
Thank you, Member Botha. Member Bosman?
Chair, I might have missed it, but I didn't hear a response to whether both parties still work within the department.
Thank you so much. HOD, are you able to attend to those questions?
Yes, Chair, I will try to attend to the questions. So just in terms of both parties, the one person was a contract worker, does not work in the department anymore. The other person is working in the department still. Okay. Just go back to Member Botha's question. Member Botha, can you just repeat your question, please? Your follow-up.
Chairperson, if you allow me.
By all means, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to know how soon after the case was lodged did the department proceed with its investigation or disciplinary of this particular case? How soon after it was lodged? Thanks, Chair.
Chairperson, immediately when the case was lodged, we started with the process of investigating, interviewing, all the processes that are immediately. It was immediate.
Chair.
Member Botha?
Immediate, if I just can just ask the HOD, immediate, is it as in today it was lodged, or this morning it was lodged, and this afternoon the process started?
As in immediately when the HOD was made aware of it, immediate action was taken.
Thank you so much, HOD. Members? So sorry, I muted myself. Members, during our deliberations here, after if there's any additional information that we require, I trust we can then take that up. Can we move forward in terms of section of part C and D, which has already been tabled? Member Botha, I see you.
Chair, I'm sorry, I'm taking you back to 175. Can I?
You may. You can go there. No problem.
I just want clarity in my mind. The HOD said that the one staff member is still within the staff component. The other staff member was a contract staff member, and that contract came that the contract worker is no longer there. Did that contract come up for renewal? And was the fact that the contract worker is no longer within the department, was it an aftermath of the investigation? Thanks.
Let me just, Mrs. Botha, let me just correct myself and say to you, I said contract was a contract, but it was an intern. So there's no issue of whether contract was renewed or not.
HOD?
Chair.
I see Member Botha and Member Bosman. I will take input from Member Botha and Member Bosman at this stage, and thereafter I would like for us to proceed. Member Botha, I note you.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask through you to the HOD, the process that was followed and the outcome of the process. May I ask that whether we could get the info to that, please?
Thank you, Member Botha. Member Bosman, I see you.
Chair, I just wanted to understand the timelines properly. So the allegation of sexual harassment was reported in August of 2019, and the investigation started in December of 2019. Do I have that sequence of events correct? And I also just wanted to ask, I remember from when I read this in the newspapers, one of the complaints that was made by the intern via the National Union of Public Service and Allied Workers was that this was a complaint was submitted to an HR manager who did nothing, and when things persisted, a formal complaint was laid with another manager who then escalated it to employee relations. Is that the correct sequence of events, in that A, that is what happened, and B, that the complaint was lodged in August and the disciplinary process started in December of 2019? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Bosman. Member Botha, I see your hand up again.
It is indeed, Chair.
You may go.
Chairperson. Okay. Then, in terms of what Member Bosman just alluded to, Chair, then that is not immediate.
Okay, my answer.
Thank you so much. I give over to the HOD.
Member Bosman's dates are incorrect. The department will provide a written answer to the committee on the entire process and the dates.
HOD, thank you so much. Members, I trust that you find that in order. Should there be any further clarity seeking questions based on the written communication from the HOD, we can always then take that up with the department moving forward. Thank you so much. Members, like I indicated, part C and D has been tabled. If I note no hands at this stage, I consider this matter to be closed in terms of section A, B, C, and D. Question E will be, part E will be dealt with in Scopa. Members, am I correct in my understanding that we are able to conclude at this stage? I see Member Bosman.
Yes, Chairperson, thank you very much. You are correct in your understanding. But before we do, Chair, if I may, if you can indulge me, can I perhaps, on behalf of this committee, on behalf of the members of the Provincial Parliament, say thank you very much to the HOD for his service to this committee. If my understanding is correct, this will be his last annual report with us. And unfortunately for him, he will meet myself, you, and Member Botha in the Education Standing Committee next year. So we just wanted to say thank you to him for his service to this department. And we've really seen how the work of this department has grown despite the constant cuts to its budget. The department continues to do excellent work, and we know that the HOD will take some of the innovations over to the education sector. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Bosman. I trust that Member Botha will indulge me if I request any input from Member Winvogel at this time.
No, I'm covered, Chair. Thank you.
Member Botha, Member Winvogel wil niks sê vir die HOD nie.
Mag ek dan maar?
Ja, u mag.
Sorry,
Dankie,
Chair.
voorsitter.
Misunderstanding.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to echo what Member Bosman has said and what you have said when we started this meeting to this HOD. And I think that this is the department, and I also want to give the accolade to the Minister, that this department has to do wonders with little. And you did wonders. And I want to congratulate you on it, and I think that it was also highlighted in the budget votes of yesterday to this department. So well done to this department, and I trust HOD that you will bring of that innovation to WCED, and you are leaving a, how do I say this? 'n leemte, né? Sê mense in Afrikaans. Ek kan nou nie op 'n Engelse woord kom nie, maar HOD, you are leaving that behind in this department, but I trust that your footprint will, that you leave in this department, others will tread in it and even do better than what you have done for this department. So thank you, thank you, thank you for the work in this department, and we will welcome you in the Department of Education in that portfolio, sir. So
Thank you so much, Member Botha. I must say, HOD, thank you so much, Member Botha. HOD, I will be seeing you in Nando's. We often meet. But thank you so much, Member Van Vogel. Member Van Vogel.
Yes, Chair.
Can I note you?
Oh. Ek dink ek gaan maar net vir die HOD baie dankie sê vir die harde werk onder moeilike omstandighede HOD, en ons wens jou alles mooi toe in jou nuwe pos, en ek hoop jy gaan die goeie werk voortvat daar in die departement van onderwys. So alles wat mooi is vir u, hoor. Dankie Chair.
Thank you so much, Lid Winvogel. Member Brinkhuis, is u nog online? Member Brinkhuis, can you hear me?
Ons is hier, Chair. Jy wil ook die oomblik vat, Chair, om vir die HOD te bedank vir die harde werk. Hulle het baie die departement het baie min resources, maar onder die omstandighede soos die vorige member gesê het, het hulle nogal baie goed gedoen. Ons compliment hulle daaroor, en sterkte vorentoe vir die jare vorentoe, en alles van die beste. Dankie.
Thank you so much. As indicated earlier on, let me, Member Bosman commented something in the chat. Member Brinkhuis, u moet maar kyk daar. Members, thank you so much on this Friday afternoon. We have accordingly dealt. Member Van Vogel, I see your hand.
By mistake, Chair. Ek het nog net gewonder, Chair, ek dink, Chair, kan jy my hoor?
Ek kan hoor.
Ek wil net byvoeg, Mr. Walters, moet net hy mooi eienskap en hy goeie werk saamneem na die departement onderwys, en ek glo hy gaan die departement onderwys regryk. Baie dankie.
Thank you so much, Member Van Vogel, Member Bosman, Member Botha, Member Brinkhuis. We've dealt with the annual reports for the 3 entities, naming the Heritage Western Cape. We've dealt with the Language Commission as well as Cultural Commission. Thank you to the HOD for your attendance, and it has been our honor to work alongside you and to work with you on this committee, as you have presented numerous times. I trust that all the sentiments that were expressed were heartfelt gratitude and thanks to you. So go well, sir. Also to your chief directors. I have noted that I will allow you an opportunity, together with the minister, as indicated, for closing remarks. I would not forget the minister, but thank you so much. I now firstly see the HOD, and then I will note the minister to end off.
No, thank you very much for the kind words that have been spoken by the members, Chairperson. And maybe just to say we have come a long way in this department over 12 years. And I want to say that if it wasn't for the oversight of this committee, Chair, right at the start, and the continuous oversight, I think this department could not have been where it is now, because essentially it's through that oversight that we were then spurred into action to be able to make sure that our services can be delivered to all the people of the Western Cape. So I do want to thank the members of the committee for all the support over years, some of them over years, some of them recent, but for all the members that are not here and have been part of these committees, Chair, over time. I think the department owes you all a debt of gratitude for keeping us on our toes and for making sure that you bring the issues of the people of the Western Cape to the attention of the department. And I do know that many of you have not hesitated to do that. So thank you very much. I am very grateful for all the oversight, for all the support we received as a department, for some of the difficult questions that we received. And I know that this will stand us all in good stead as for the department, for the colleagues that I leave behind. Please be kind to them. And for in my new role in WCD, I look forward to that role. I am excited by it, and I'm interested to hear that some of the members on this committee will also be on that committee. So with those few words, Chairperson, my minister has been the longest MEC. I think it's 5 years now, Minister, that we've been together. I thank the minister very much for that. I'm very sad to leave her, but this is life. Things happen, and sometimes you've got to go forward, or sometimes backward, or sometimes sideways. Yeah, thank you to all of you, and thank you especially to the minister and to the chairperson and everybody on this committee. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you so much. Minister, I'll now note you.
Thank you, Chair. I want to recognize the significant efforts of all involved in this department in promoting, as we always say, social inclusion, and as the HOD always says, sense of belonging, and especially for enhancing our footprint in the Western Cape. HOD Walters, thank you for steering us in the right direction for almost 12 years. And thank you for your integrity and your leadership. We are a weird and wonderful department as well as a standing committee, and we wish you well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister.
To all the officials, thank you once again for your attendance here today, as well as the HOD, chief directors, the minister, chairpersons for various entities. Thank you, thank you. The minister, I got a message now, and I think seeing it's after 5 member Bota. So I can say this, that from our procedural officer, he said, Jenne, my HOD, because you have also connected with the procedural staff within the WCPP. So thank you to Mr. Wasim Matthews. He's going to dislike me for reading out the message like that. But thank you so much, Wasim Matthews, for your attendance here today as well. To the department, you are now excused. I would request that members remain for our deliberation.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and colleagues. Thank you for all your work here, and also thanks to the procedural officers. Wasim, we become particularly close to Chair. So that comment is not out of order. Thank you very much, Chair. Bye-bye.
Thank you for confirming that. Otherwise, you would have killed me.
Okay.
Please go well.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Members, we will now, in terms of our deliberation and input on recommendations that could potentially be incorporated into our committee report. Also, thank you, Mr. Daza, as well as our IT support members. In terms of the recommendations and resolutions, we've already heard that the HOD will furnish us with information with regard to pages 175. I trust that our procedural officer have captured that. We will write to him to ascertain when that will be provided to the committee, but I will stress the urgency thereof. Is there any other recommendations at this stage? Wasim Matthews, I see you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson and members. Chairperson, I just want to read out, and members can perhaps correct, even though the department took note of one of the requests for information, but if we could just sort of fine tune it, that the committee requests a report on the details of the sexual harassment case The report should detail the process followed, the outcome of the process, the details of the timeline, specifically of when the case was reported and when the investigation into the complaint was commenced and ended. Then there was also a request for details on any road shows for with respect to Heritage Western Cape. Details of any road shows for there was no period given, so I'm not sure if it was just for the next year or till the end of the financial year. So members could just fine tune that for me. And of course, these road shows are within the context of the lockdown restrictions. There was another request from members regarding another HR matter, where the two officials were they resigned. So I'm not sure if that question was sufficiently answered, or if members still want more details on those those two issues of resignation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthews. Members, also welcome back, Member Kama. We are dealing with resolutions at this stage. We've concluded our deliberations on the annual reports for the department and the entities. Members, were the matters captured adequately from your side? I trust that all is then in order. Mr. Matthews?
Yes, Chair, just the issue, the timeline for the roadshows. It wasn't stated for how long ahead you wanted.
I think once that matter has been finalized and they have all their details, if they are able to circulate that to the committee, and obviously if any member is then available, they could go and attend and see what Heritage Western Cape is doing. So so as soon as they conclude any matters in that regard. Is that sufficient enough?
Noted, Chair. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthews. Members, it is now 15. It is now 5:15. I consider this meeting to be concluded. Thank you so much, and please have a peaceful and safe weekend. Thank you so much.